Alrighty then, I am revisiting a few of my previous videos, and I want to talk about, if you look to the right here, there is a thumbnail of the, as many people are familiar with, I Pet Goat, and I have this particular video, which being that I'm going to talk about similar things in this present video, go watch that. I have it featured on my homepage of my YouTube channel, and I'm talking about that shark there, and you can listen to what I said there and then compare notes to this video. But I want to focus on something. I was just kind of investigating certain things. I want to focus on, well, now here we've got the Economist magazine cover, which, of course, if you look, I've done a few videos on that, and a lot of people are familiar with this image. They've seen all this symbology. It's, it take a long time to break down. I did try to do that in previous videos, but I did come across a very interesting picture that is not the same one, and I was just I thought that was kind of interesting that they would have this particular picture, because if you look on the original, and I had circled, if you look to the top right, that is you can't really, it's kind of hard to tell there, but that is really depicting a Greek ship. And what is interesting about that is there's a saying, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Paraphrased in English as, I fear the Greeks even when bearing gifts. It is a Latin phrase from the Aeneid, a Latin epic poem written by Virgil, and the utterance was spoken by the Trojan priest, I don't know how to pronounce it, Laocoon, refers to the Trojan horse constructed by the Greeks during the Trojan War. Now, we know what the Trojan War was. They snuck in a giant horse. That's what had to do with the Trojan War. It was a big giant horse, and they said, this is a gift. Except it was a image to creep out of it. Okay, so the Trojans agreed to, let's read about it. Okay, they brought in a horse, this wooden horse, and then the horse was on wheels, and then they were hiding within the horse. So that's kind of where we get the term Trojan horse, and I probably didn't do it justice to describe that definition, but if you look on it, there's the Greek ship. Beware Greek ships, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Well, interestingly, and again, I will go back to my homepage, because I was talking about, in this video to the right, I think they're signaling an upcoming attack. I was saying that in that shark image, I believe that represented a submarine or something from the water. And for a little more detailed information, go watch that video. Okay, so now getting back to this new image. Let's see, here we go. One thing about this new image that kind of struck me, and of course you see the 250th celebration of the United States, and that is in July. That's coming up in July 4th. But if you notice, the images have changed slightly. There's a ship up there. It looks like, I guess that's what you would see on an aircraft carrier, but look at that. It's no longer the original old, the old design of a Greek ship. It is in a more contemporary depiction. And then also too, you look, if you look to the right. Now, if you look to the left, there's another ship that looks like it has some kind of missile launchers, or wouldn't even know what to describe that, but I find it very interesting that they have these things, and being that I revisited my previous video about this shark attack, aka submarine or something from the water, I'm wondering now, after they've put this new little image out, I'm almost wondering if they're signaling something, some kind of attack, because you look at it, and I talked about in that previous video about water attacks. It was signaling water, attacks from the water. Of course, now sharks live in the water, so that was my connection there. But if you look at this, it's water. You see all the water, and you see in the middle those missiles. You see, they're saying the 250 event, there's the cake. And I talked about that in a previous video too, because Brittany, a few years back, had put out some sort of cryptic post on, I think it was her Instagram, but it's in one of my videos, where she was giving a sort of a cryptic warning, and it was on a cake. So I thought, that's kind of interesting. But if you notice, that cake is connected to a handcuffs. So they're signaling that this is going to bring slavery and perhaps an attack. Will it be in July? Will it be around the time of the 4th of July, when we're having our celebration? Are we going to be attacked? I've talked about that several times in other videos. I think they're going to do something, going back to some of my other videos, attacks. I believe attacks are coming. It's hard to find which ones, but I believe, oh, well, here it is, signs and warnings. That was one. I talked about an attack possibly in Washington, D.C., and New York City, and prominent places. So my question is this: why do they have this? Are we going to have some attacks from the water? I don't even follow Q, but I think a few years back they had a phrase called "watch the water." Well, it could be a cryptic warning in plain sight, like they do, telling us that we may have an attack from the water on the United States. Where, I don't know, like particularly, I mentioned Washington, D.C., and key places, but I think these are all warnings that they're telling us something's coming. Watch the water. I'm not seeing any more images that are really sticking out to me, but I just thought this was interesting when I investigated this on the Google page, that it's not the only image. They have that. That one particularly stood out to me. So, yeah, there may be an attack in July or sometime this summer when all the celebrations are going on. They've been saying that Iran, this whole thing with Trump going back and forth, flip-flopping and sending mixed messages. It's just all theater. But yeah, I think we need to be prepared that there are going to be some new attacks. Perhaps. I'm not saying set in stone, but sure is pretty interesting that they put this out as a feature on another image of the Economist cover. So anyway, I'll end there. Just food for thought. And with that said, thanks for watching.